Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, working on your financial freedom. Today is Tell Del Tuesday, and with me here is Ron Buckman out of Phoenix, Arizona. Ron has the dubious honor of retiring 3 times. Yes, he's had 3 careers in his life, and now he's living his 4th basic lifestyle, which is to be a real estate investor and retire doing that. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Del. Great to be here.
Would love to know, Ron, just some background and the story of how you decided 3 different times to change careers / retire and jump back into careers. What was the headset to that? Because I know there's got to be other people out there that have done the same thing, and I think we're all curious, for those of us who didn't do it that way, what made it happen that way?
Well, I spent many years working for the telephone company, and I was in the communications business for years. Did a number of things that related directly to that. I was consulting, and then I started 3 more communications companies overseas, and that I finally retired from that in 2001, so that was the end of the telecommunications business. At that time, remember, we had the .com deal and or the Y2K thing, so nobody was buying any more equipment, and that's the business that I was pretty much in. So at that point in time, I decided to go ahead and I was off for a year or 2, decided to go ahead and start an auto body shop with a partner of mine. And I have been previously rebuilding cars up until for the past 14, 15 years before that. So we decided to build an auto body shop in Gilbert. And it was 26,000 square feet on 2 acres. We ran that for about 10 years. And then we ended up selling the business in 2012. And then I was retired again. And I got kind of bored, and I went to back to work for a fiber optic company. And that was the only reason I worked there. I was trying to help them out, and I finally did retire in 2019. But during that time, I had joined Lifestyles in October of 2017 and became a real estate investor.
So the auto thing was a hobby, huh? That's where because that seemed like such a change, big change. That was a hobby of yours?
Yes. The last one was kind of a hobby, is what it was. So I did that basically to help them out. I had a good time doing that. I had all these projects going, but it was just pretty much a hobby. I was keeping myself busy. I would be home for a while, and then I would get so bored. I played a lot of golf and did all kinds of other things, but I still was too bored. So I went ahead and decided to go back to work for some company for a while.
That's interesting. So it had nothing to do with financial need at all, then, just boredom.
Oh no, not at all. We had a pretty good pile of money, and both my wife and I happened to be looking for lifestyles, something like that, when all of a sudden I heard your show. And because I see us just having this pile of money, and the thing just dwindling over time down to nothing. And so when I heard your show back in 2017 and heard you were coming to Phoenix, I thought this would be an opportunity to get the cash flow and then also to keep continuing to grow the nest egg.
I see. So what was your first touch with Lifestyles besides the radio show? What kind of event did you visit to?
The first event that we went to was the free workshop. You happened to be here for that. That was in probably September of 17. There were a lot of people at that session here, and you were looking to open up, I think, Phoenix at some point in time. And so you happened to be at that particular workshop. And I brought my wife along, and she's a skeptic of any of my deals. And then I happened to also bring along my youngest daughter, and she manages large apartment complexes and has done that for years. And her husband, who is a regional maintenance director for a very large real estate management company. So we were there for the 2-day, not the 2-day, but the free workshop at that point in time, and got a chance to see you also.
Wow, so you brought the skeptic and two people in the industry. You were really testing me.
That's right. And they didn't have much to say about it, but you did pass the major test, which was my wife. So that was the true test, was to get by that. So we were able to go ahead then, and I was able to convince you to go ahead and go to the 2-day, and we made it through that too. After the first day, she was pretty impressed with the single family, and then very impressed with the multifamily. And then she went ahead and we decided to go ahead and become preferred investors.
What pushed you over the edge for the multifamily?
It appeared that the single family was going to be quite a bit of management to get that up and running, and my wife didn't want me to be a lead investor right away, and so she thought the passive would be a good way to start, and so that's what we did.
So did you ever become a lead?
No, I wanted to, but she thought it'd be better to do passive for a while and maybe consider it later. Now I'm probably getting to be too old to do that, so but I definitely wanted to do that at that time.
Well, you've got quite a few projects. I mean, I see 21 that you're currently in, and then another 3, 6, 7 or so that you already sold. So you've gone through quite a few projects already since 2017.
Yes, we had. I think there were 28 projects. We have one that we're in the process of selling right now, and the projects have done very, very well. We're very impressed with what all of those leads have done and how successful it was, and pretty much met everything that you said it would.
So let's talk about your theory and how you got involved, because you bought quite a few properties fairly quickly. You made, a lot of investments. You already had money. By the way, for those of you who are listening, Ron had money to start with because he had done really well in business and had saved a lot of money. So he had money. His wife had money. So they started investing. But you had to have some philosophy. What was your philosophy coming out of the blocks? What was your game plan?
We had not met a lot of the leads. So originally, we pretty much were looking at mainly the deal. So we'd look at the deal. We were older, so we were trying to do the yield investments, which provided us cash flow, because we were planning to live off the cash flow, and then as the properties would reinvest, we would continue to grow the capital as we went forward. So we pretty much were looking for, and the leads that we were looking for, we wanted them to be, our strategy was to find them that were either working in real estate, had pretty good knowledge of the multifamily business, or had owned their own small business. And we wanted them to have that experience. If the lead didn't have that experience, we were waiting until the third or fourth deal before we jump in, because we kind of figured that they would be learning on our dime, is what amounts to.
Yeah, that's true, Ron. They are learning on your dime. However, I will, just from one older guy to another older guy, share a response to that, and that is, what I found is, just to relate back against your theory, is that those beginner guys that don't know what they're doing usually work really, really hard and ask a lot of questions because they don't know what they're doing, and they're really, worried about it. It's the third and the fourth deal on those beginners that just kills them, because, you can work hard through one deal. You might be able to work hard through two deals, but by the time you get two or three going at the same time, that's when your business skills really kick in. You have to know how to delegate. You have to know how to hire and fire, and it really gets a lot tougher then at that point. So, up front, I like beginners, the first deal, the second deal. When you look down the line, you got to really start looking under the hood, Ron, when you get at guys that have 2 and 3 deals, because now they have to learn some new skill sets if they don't already have them. With me here today on Tell Tuesday is Ron Buckman out of Phoenix, Arizona. Ron's got about 28 properties still, sold off about 7, been with us for about 5 years, so he's got quite a bit of activity under his belt. And Ron is firmly retired. This is his 4th retirement, it looks like. And he's just clicking along, him and his wife, just living the life. But before we get to that, let's talk about theory. So your plan and your theory, Ron, how did it relate to diversification?
First of all, when I first started, since I didn't know that many leads, my wife and I would look at the opportunities, and then we would pretty much would do some diversification across both, pretty much across the country and across the leads. As time marched on and we got to meet more of the leads, we've shifted our focus a little more, and now we tend to focus more on the lead than we do on all of the opportunities. And we are currently located in, I believe, 5 states. I've got quite a few properties in Arizona. I have many more in Texas. Also have one in Kentucky. There's one that we just sold in Tennessee. I have one now. We're down to one in Atlanta. And I just purchased a new property in Florida. I'm pretty excited about that. That's just getting ready to close pretty soon.
Yeah, this is really probably one of the most diversified portfolios I've ever seen as far as location. I'm just going to read these off for the listeners because it's pretty impressive. Texas City, Atlanta, that's Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Del Rio, Texas, Lake Jackson, Texas, Conroe, Texas, East Houston, Beaumont, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Alvin, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Northwest Houston, San Antonio, Texas, Burlington, Kentucky, Glendale, Arizona, Houston, Texas, Tucson, Arizona again, Phoenix, Arizona, Houston, Las Colinas, Texas, which is up by Dallas, and Branton, Florida. And then you've got Denton, Florida, Atlanta, LaPorte, San Antonio, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and North Phoenix. So, wow, you are diversified. The other thing I noticed, you're diversified as far as number of units. You don't seem to care how many units are in the property, huh?
Yeah, no, it depends on, once again, it could be a low of pretty much like 75 now. We had a few that were down below that, and then we go all the way up to 400 pretty much on the various, some of those are portfolios. There's more than one apartment complex in those. Some of the ones in Phoenix, also one in Tucson has got multiple sites, and so there's actually more than one property in some of the deals also.
Being that you've diversified so much, both in size of properties and portfolio and all these different variations, what I'd like to know is, now that you're seeing properties starting to turn over and you've had some time to own these, is there any one variable that you see that makes the most difference on whether or not these projects have been profitable to you? Is there anything you can pick out?
The only thing that is really critical that I've determined has been the lead, and is a great portion of that, and also what's kind of happened in the market. Some of the leads were able to go ahead and handle what happened in their location, COVID, much better than others, and that's made quite a difference in which ones were most successful or not. But it mainly was the lead that was made the most difference in being effective on the property.
So now that you've identified that as being one of the major factors, how do you identify a lead you're willing to work with, or one that you might just pass up on?
We've looked at several of the leads for different opportunities they've had over the years. We got to know them a little bit as we've gone through looking at deals, and maybe have turned them down in the past. And then, of course, we do have our favorite leads that we have in various cities. And those we tend to, if the opportunity comes up with those leads, we will typically jump on that deal.
Makes sense. Have you tapped into the, I'm going to put quotation marks around this as I say it, air quotes, the super leads network? You know, all the people like yourselves that are just buying up tons of these deals. There seems to be a little group of you guys that all kind of talk to each other, let each other know who to watch out for and who not to watch out for. Have you tapped into that little group yet?
No, I've not really tapped into that, although I have a feeling that there's a lot of the same players that are in that group that are in the deals that we invest in. So although I'm not personally in that group, I'm on the fringe of that group, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's like you say, they're all doing the same thing, and you have a lot of common, I guess, issues to deal with and talk about and so on and so forth. That's another, let's just talk about the social aspect of this, being that you're getting up there in age. Your diverse background, I'm just going to throw that into the twist. There can't be a lot of people that can relate to you and being successful financially and now doing all this real estate. Where do you find the people you hang out with?
That's a great question. I know you've talked about in the past you have different friends than you had in the past because you had more time. I don't have a real big circle of friends. I have my typically my friends at the gym that I meet with all the time. There's typically a whole bunch of us old guys. And then there's also my golfing buddies is who we see. And other than that, we don't see a lot. My wife is involved in some other social groups, and so we get together with some of those people. But other than that, there's not a lot of really friends that I have.
Have you made any friends at Lifestyles at all? Oh,
many. There are a lot of the people that we call. We do enjoy when Peter Nierman, the ambassador here in Phoenix, we used to get together every month, and it was phenomenal meeting all those people. Those all became very good friends. We still meet somewhat, but because of COVID, that slowed down a lot, and it's not quite the same as it was 2.5 years ago when we did that. But that was also a lot of the people we meet, and I still call a lot of those people to this day to talk to them about various projects and also leads.
So you bring up your wife. Doesn't she do some kind of charity work, or is that you? Or I thought I saw something.
No, that's sort of me. I'm the score mentor. So I help people start new businesses. I'm also the person that takes care of all of the new volunteers that come into the school organization. So I spend probably 15 hours a week doing that.
Does that give you a lot of fulfillment, Ron?
Yes, I enjoy that. I particularly like the people. A lot of the people that you end up talking to are they don't know anything about business, and so you end up bringing them all the way through from that to getting all of their LLCs and everything set up and take them through accounting and everything else and get their business going. It is quite fulfilling to do that.
I give you that sense of give back, I assume. All right, well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Ron Buckman in the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
You allowed 15,000 members into your sandbox.
Thank you.
And so that speaks volumes. So for that, and as a family.
So you know why I did that? Everybody always asks, why did you do this? Because I was an ugly kid. My parents used to have to put a pork chop around my neck so the dog would play with me. And so I always wanted to have friends, and I figured if I could make people rich, they might be my friend.
Join Del and his successful friends. Start with the free online workshop. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me here today on Tell Del Tuesday is Ron Buckman out of Phoenix, Arizona. Ron has quite a few projects. He still has around 28 different properties, apartments he's in, complexes, and he's sold off around 7. So done quite a few projects in the last 5 years since he joined up with us. Ron, I'm curious here, if you were to meet someone, let's say you came to a meetup event, and someone said, hey, Ron, if you had any advice for a beginner, what would that advice be?
I talk to people quite a bit at the time, especially a lot of my friends at the gym. I have talked to them about lifestyles and getting into real estate and go through, and I make a pretty good effort for them to go ahead and get into the workshop. I said, even if you got time, just take 2 hours to go ahead and take the free workshop. You'll get some idea, and then if you can, take the 2-day to go through and learn what that is. And I just said it'll be a terrific deal for you to go ahead and do it. So I really take every opportunity I can to talk about this particular organization as it's been so successful for my wife and I.
So someone that's already made the decision to get into the association, what are the Head Start ideas you'd give them? Like, hey, if you're going to do this, this is what you need to be thinking or doing.
I'll go through and tactfully talk about how much money they got. I want to try to figure out if they need to start with single-family homes or if they can jump right into the multifamily if they have enough money. And then I tell them how to go through and get going on the single-family homes. Talk to the lifestyles people, and I mentioned to them that the lifestyles real estate people already have looked at the property, have made some general determination as what's required for a renovation, and then we'll actually give them the cash flow and what they can expect to make on the property. So on a new person that doesn't have a lot of money, those are where, and I've actually talked to a few of the people on the SCORE program that were looking to expand their efforts, and so they've actually been moving down the path also toward lifestyles. And I do that pretty much every opportunity I get. I don't hound the people, though. I don't talk to them more than I'll talk to them once. If they bring it up again, I talk to them about it. But other than that, I give them a pretty thorough description right up front.
Is there anything, Ron, that you dissuade people from doing? Give an example, because it's not like being negative. It's just like, somebody asks you a negative question, or the basis of it is negative. You got to answer it, otherwise you're avoiding them. One of the questions I get all the time, is there any place you wouldn't invest? And I say yes, everywhere that there's a liberal population that has made the landlord-tenant laws very one-sided, skewed towards the tenant. That's an example of a negative point of view. Is there anything you tell people to watch out for? Yes,
that's one in particular that I do exactly cover. I recommend that they only invest in red states. I'm concerned that the blue state investments that you're going to end up with rent control probably coming in those locations and some other bizarre policy that are going to affect the rents and everything, ownership of the property. So that's one that I recommend. I can't think of any other right now, but I'm sure I'll think of several more later here as to what I also warn them about doing.
So what about locations here? You've been all over the country. Is there any place you wouldn't go back to that you've been?
No, not necessarily. We didn't do as well as I would have liked in Tennessee. We had a property in Chattanooga. It didn't do as well, but the lead wasn't located there. And I think a lot of times on a property that isn't doing as well, if the lead isn't there quite a bit of the time, it may need some additional management attention, and we didn't get that there. So I tend to look a little with a jaded eye at the leads that aren't going to be located fairly close to look at the properties or have a specific plan as to how they're going to manage that with their management company.
Good point. That's a real good point. I've seen that too. The guys that try to do it far away. You can be far away from the investment, but not the person running the investment shouldn't be that far away from it. I want to slice this up a little bit differently here, and I'm see if I can articulate it in a way that you can follow me. There is, you go into this, Ron, with the idea you want the cash flow. I get that. That's me. Rule one, don't lose money, but rule two is there's got to be cash flow because I'm living off this stuff. That's where my money comes from. But rule three is you can't get rich slow. And you had mentioned earlier that, you're looking for those refinance. In fact, I think it was in your talking point somewhere along the way in the back, you were saying, hey, I'm sitting here waiting for some more money to come through, and I've got a line of credit now so I can have money right when the great deals come by. But it really comes down to continue to grow your wealth, you either have to hit a refinance or you have to hit a sale. How are you looking at those now? Do you look kindly on those situations, or do you look forward to those situations where there's a big refi or there's a sale?
I actually like my personal choice of both my wife and I would be to refinance and not sell. If the property's got a great cash flow, the property is much better off, and for me anyway, passive, to receive that cash flow. and we'll eventually get the money at a later date and do that. The sales, luckily on all of the sales we've had so far, we've still not had to pay any tax because we're reinvesting so quickly again, and most of those properties are doing the cost segregation, so we're able to claim that depreciation much quicker. So we have yet to pay any tax on any of the cash flow and or the long-term gains on the properties and the sales. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen this year, but I have a feeling it's going to continue down that path.
You know, it's amazing that you bring that up because I've had Lynn tell me that and some other people that I've talked to. Madeline, same thing, you know, people that I know personally, and they're talking about their personal finances, that this stuff, that those tax write-offs pile up. And so that when you sell, and Scott Van Ostrom talked to me about this too, so, you know, all these tax write-offs pile up and you get this big giant pile of carry forward, and then when you have these capital gains, boom, it wipes them out. So that's a really neat thing. I like that point. Yeah, and the sell, then you have additional capital gains there, so that waters down some of that stuff. Good stuff.
Because there's some depreciation, then you've also got to claim that plus the other actual gain that you made, which has been huge. And so I'm just amazed so far that we haven't had to pay any taxes.
I would stick this into that same point because it all kind of falls into the same bucket, and that is, I've always liked the little investors, the beginner guys, because they pick small projects, and the small projects don't take very long to turn around. In other words, if I got to get everybody out to raise the rents, and I only have to kick 20 people out and raise the rent $100 a door to make it go up in value by 50%, a lot easier to do and quicker to do on 20 units than it is on 200 or 300 units. And so I find that those smaller projects tend to turn over quicker, and that's where you get that money back again. You get that compounding effect of the money growing and growing and growing and growing. You're at the point now where you've said that in your information sheet here that you are looking to pull money out of a loan to give you timing access to the money as opposed to waiting for the next deal to come due. You want to explain that to people?
Yes, we took out a what's called a HELOC of $400,000, and we just have that against our home. And what we do is if there's a lot, you know, the deals don't come any linearly, so you don't get out of one and then the next really good deal shows up. A lot of times they show up maybe 2 months before you've actually closed on the other deal. So what we're doing is we have this HELOC, and what we'll do is we'll get the money out of there, so we'll take $100,000 or $200,000 out for the property, and then we'll go ahead and take that loan out, and then we just pay it back when the other money comes through. And so it's a strategy that we don't miss anything that we really want. And so I can go all the way up to $400,000 if we want doing that. And so that's our opportunity, that we don't miss the really good deal coming up because we don't have any cash at that time.
Here with me today on Tell Tuesday is Ron Buckman out of Phoenix, Arizona. And as you've learned today, Ron's got 28 properties involved in right now, sold 7 already. All this in the first 5 years of being a member here. Ron was very successful before he came here, had some money to invest, and was able to jump in right away. So, Ron, you've got your system down. We've looked at it. Looks like a really good system that can be perpetuated into the future. How do you see it perpetuating? What is your goals for the future for you, the wife, and so forth?
Our plan is just to go ahead and continue doing what we're doing. Once again, we're living on the cash flow from the yield play, so we're hoping that that's going to continue, that we can just keep growing that with more and more properties, and then we're going to continue to keep reinvesting in more yield properties so that we'll actually be able to raise our standard of living as the cash flow and stuff like that really kind of increases going forward, and yet the nest egg will continue to grow. So then when we eventually die, we'll go ahead and give those properties to our 3 daughters.
Gotcha. So I want to come back to the daughters in a second because that was really the next place I was going to go. But something came to my mind, and I don't know if it's a joke I want to get out or if it's actually a good question. And that is, 5 years now since you've been in business. Are you getting the 5-year itch yet to go back and start another business?
Actually, I spend quite a bit of time on that SCORE program, about 15 hours a week, and that's probably enough because there's stuff that comes up that spreads throughout the time, and so I'm probably not going to go back and work at this point in time. I have thought about becoming a lead again, but which is what I was wanting to do originally to start with, but my wife didn't want me to do that right when I rejoined, so I've thought about it a little bit, but I think we're just going to continue down the retired path and be a passive.
How long have you been married?
30 years.
How old are your children now?
Children are 47, 43, and 42.
Are they all married?
They are all married, yes.
All right, so that leads into my next set of questions, and that is, have you influenced them in any way? Especially since you said some of them work in the business. Oh, yeah, we talk to them all the time. I do talk to them, the properties that we buy, we talk to them all the time. At some point in time, they haven't had any money has been a big problem. We'll go ahead and have them join the lifestyles and, move down that path also as they hopefully get a little more money going forward. So they haven't exactly saved their money like I would have liked, but that's just being a dad. Oh, gosh, don't get me going. Don't get me going. They say that apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but it can roll a long ways, Ron. That's for sure. Oh, gosh. Okay. So I like you. Started saving my money when I started working, full time at 22. I was saving 20-30% of my money. So that's not a new feature that the kids today do. No, I think it's something that came out of where we're from. I mean, a time and place, just like my dad's time and place was growing up when his dad came out of the recession. And so his dad was like, hey, if you reach for one more piece of food on the table, I'm going to hit you with the knife across the back of your knuckles. And I remember the story of you could only have one square of toilet paper. They'd hand it out. I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, here's your one square. Your parents tell you these stories, go, come on, is that really true? And then we're sitting here now telling these people they should be saving 20-30%. They go, I don't understand how they could be. I can't even live on what I make. In fact, I need more, So who knows? Who knows? It just keeps changing. You got this down. You figured it all out. It's working well. I just don't see in this situation how you could do much better than what you're doing. Have you got any ideas to make it better? Have you thought of ways to make it work better? No, not really. Like I said, we try to meet as many mentors as we can. Try to get in the best deals that we can find when we have money available to reinvest. And there's really not much else that I can think that we can do. If we can meet more people or look at more opportunities in that. Even from the beginning, I went through when I joined Lifestyles, I finished all of the core training within a week, and my purpose was to get a hold of all of the leads immediately and start looking at the deals. And so I had letters out to 250 leads immediately after that first week that we were here. So I would start seeing the deals and get ready to invest. I didn't want to let a lot of moss grow under my feet. Have you met Madeline yet? No, I've not. Madeline is a lot like you. I got put in the hospital, and I was there for a couple of weeks, and I came out and hadn't seen her for about a month. And I said, how you doing? She goes, well, pretty good. I got 56 deals. I go, what? What are you talking about? I'd gone in the hospital. She had like one or two, and I got out. She had 56. But she's now our passive mentor. And so she's a great person to get to know if you're into this kind of stuff. Okay. We appreciate you coming on the radio and sharing your story with us. Lots of people out there have stories. Everybody's a little different, and be able to hear yours is really, it's exciting for the people that are a lot like you, Phil. I appreciate it.
You bet, Del. It was great to be here.
For the rest of you out there, remember this. Ron, he did it for the cash flow. He didn't do it for the get wealthy. He got wealthy by saving, progressively growing his wealth, investing, and growing it some more. And now he's at that situation where there's so much success in his life, all he has to do is enjoy it. The rest of you out there, remember that. Not just the money, it's a lifestyle. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley radio show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.